Hey folks, today we're covering Tinto Talks 37 for Project Caesar, aka EU5, and continuing on from last week's initial look at cultures, Johan's back this week to talk about cultural influence, cultural traditions, artists, and a bunch of other features as well that are coming as part of this game. So we'll just get straight into it as always. So the first thing he's going to talk about is cultural influence. This is the attack power of a culture in the context of a cultural war, representing how impressive it appears to other cultures and the reach it has beyond its own borders. It has a monthly increase depending on prestige, which is going to cover later on, some cultural buildings, and also increases upon the completion of a work of art, and he's going to talk about works of art in a second as well. And the first screenshot we've got here is cultural influence of the English, currently at 0. It is increasing due to England, the Pale, and Wales. I guess that's probably places that the English have influence over, and that is increasing it further as well. Next, he's going to talk about cultural tradition. This is the defense part of culture in the context of a cultural war, representing how strongly this culture's traditions resonate with its people. Tradition has a monthly change dependent on relevant buildings, but also on the amount of art that you have in your country. The average literacy of your nobles also has a significant impact on this as well. And again, he's going to show the same thing here. So you can see the English tradition that we were just looking at. It has increased slightly in this screenshot. And then you can also see the cultural tradition from England. It shows the works of art, the locations that are English, I suppose. Traditional societal value. I will say, he mentioned at the end, we are finally getting information on societal values next week, which is great, but then also the outward societal value changing it as well. So we'll get a lot more information about how societal values work next week, which will be good because they have been covered quite a few times in these dev diaries, but we don't really have much information on them. So we'll find out a lot more next week. And then as he's been mentioning, there is like the cultural war that can happen in the game. Now, this isn't like in Civilization or something like that. It just affects really some modifiers during your campaigns. So what is cultural influence and cultural tradition impacting? Well, they have this concept called cultural war, which impacts several aspects of the game. For the part where culture is relevant, the cultural influence of the attacking culture is compared against the defending culture. If it is positive, you will get bonuses. If it's negative, you will face penalties. There are plenty of diplomatic actions where having a dominant culture is a benefit for the other culture to accept your deals, not to mention the fact that building a spy network is much faster if you have a cultural dominance. I'm not sure about that, to be honest. Like, having your culture affect how quick your spies build, I mean, I guess it maybe makes sense. I guess, like, abstracted out, it's showing, like, you're maybe more sophisticated as a nation, so maybe you'd be better at those kind of things. I guess that kind of makes sense, but let me know what you think in the comments down below. Not too sure about your culture rating, really, kind of affecting things like that, but we'll see, obviously, once we get our hands on it. This also has an impact on some conquered lands, and if you want to integrate it, as if your cultural influence is bigger than their traditions, you will integrate the territory faster. This is also valid if you want to annex a subject as well. That one kind of makes more sense, I guess. Like, if you're more culturally advanced, I guess the other nation, the people there, might see you as like better, I suppose, and might be willing to integrate that a little bit faster. You also assimilate people faster if you have higher cultural influence than the population's traditions. And there is also a small impact on sieges as well. Again, not sure about the sieges. Why would cultural influence affect sieges? We'll see how much the modifier is for that. It does say a small modifier. That one makes the least amount of sense to me, as we do have the unlocks as you progress through the ages. I'm not sure why it would affect that, but again, let me know what you think in the comments. Next, he's going to talk about cultural investment. One of the most important advances in the Age of Renaissance is Patron of the Arts. This one is early in the part of the tree that is required for the Renaissance institution, and it allows you to invest into culture. The cost of this depends on the size of your economy and how many artists you wish to employ. And you can see here, Patron of the Arts can invest in culture, yes. Amount of artists +1. So you can invest in your culture and get known for being like a high culture society, doing a lot of art things. Think of like Renaissance Italy or something like that. It looks like you can kind of play that as your realm. There is a direct impact from the investments you make each month on your prestige, which again, he's going to talk about later on in the dev diary, as well as an impact on the skill of your artists and the art that they create. There are some countries outside of Europe that already start with the advances that unlock investing into your culture. So that's cool to see some flavor for other countries. You actually have this, even if the other nations have to wait to getting to this part in the progression. Some cultures are going to have this to begin with, which is cool. They can be more known for their like high culture and things like that. So as he's been mentioning, we are getting artists, and this was kind of spoiled the other week with one of the screenshots. There are characters that appear in countries that are investing into their culture. They will spend their time creating new art or figuring out what art they should create. They will also increase their skill over time, depending on how much money you invest in them. If you get frustrated with them not producing new art, you can always commission art directly by throwing even more money at them. Various buildings and advances can impact the skill floor and the ceiling of new artists as well. So if you play Crusader Kings, this sounds like inspired characters that will come to your realm. Although in this case, it sounds like they just appear if you invest in culture. But if you haven't played Crusader Kings, you get these characters that come to your realm. They're inspired characters, and they'll come to you and say, give me 50 gold and I'll make you a crown or something. And then you have a bunch of events that ultimately decide how good that item is. For the most part, as we all know, they're generally terrible, but you can get good ones, especially if you invest a lot of money and the dice are on your side. But it looks like we're getting a version of that in EU5. And you can see in this screenshot, we got Simone Martini. He's Tuscan, he's Catholic, he's one of these artists. It looks like maybe he's good at doing sculptures by the looks of it. I wonder if that's what that icon means. He is an artist in the Papal States, and his work of art that he has completed so far is Saint Louis of Toulouse crowning his brother Robert of Anjou. So he's obviously created that, and then somebody will own that in one of their buildings. If you have less than double the number of supported artists in your country, you can also poach an artist from a smaller and less rich country. That artist will then move to your country, and all the art they create will benefit you. However, the influence of the culture of the country you invited him from will increase. So I guess that's showing like, hey, this guy was so good, you stole him. So the realm he came from actually gets some benefit because other people look and say, wow, he was so good, another country had to steal him. I guess that's actually a pretty cool mechanic. It's not all bad if people get taken from you, but there is a way to poach artists from another culture, which is pretty fun to see. And then there are several types of artists. They all create different types of art. So we won't read all of this, but you get painters, sculptors, composers, writers, architects, philosophers, jurists, scientists, iconographers, and metalsmiths. So they will all create things based on those areas and different kind of bonuses and things like that based on what kind of thing they make. So the actual works of art themselves, a work of art is something that the artist has created. When the art is created, it will directly increase the cultural influence of the primary culture of the country that the artist was working in. Not artists will necessarily live in a capital or create their art there either, so they can travel around your realm by the looks of it. And we see an example here. This is one that is actually in the game when you start. So this is Llewellyn's coronet. This is an average art quality. It is a regalia. It was created in 1200 in Anglesey. The current owner is England. We all know England likes to gobble up other people's stuff and stick them in a museum. So they have got this coronet here being used, and it was obviously stolen from the Welsh. When a location is conquered through a siege or normal occupation, there is a chance for a work of art to be looted or destroyed. If it is looted, it is transferred to your capital, so you can create a nice museum a few centuries later. I don't know if this is a dig at Venice, which the next screenshot's for, or a dig at the English. Probably both. There's other nations that have done this as well, but they're probably the two most famous examples of just having these things saying like, these are mine now, and they're from obviously other places. Having some art in your country has its benefits, increasing your prestige and tradition. So you can make these works of art, or you can steal them from other people. Again, very similar to how it works in Crusader Kings. So these are the works of art currently in Venice. You've got St. Mark's Basilica, Horses of St. Mark, a bunch of other ones as well, and you can see the modifiers that that is giving. Obviously, Venice definitely made all of these things. There is also a direct benefit to all locations that have works of art as well, depending on how much of the art you have, and it provides some good benefits. So you can see again in this example, art in Westminster. He's definitely picked on Venice and England in this dev diary. There is currently 3 works of art in Westminster, which is 1.52 of all art in the world. I wonder if there's going to be an achievement where you have to steal all the art. It's going to be called, the English are here or something like that. You've got the Stone of Scone, you've got the Cross of Neath, and you've got Llewellyn's coronet. So again, 3 things they definitely made themselves. This level of art has the following effects. So you can see it affects cultural tradition, pop promotion speed, conversion speed, and assimilation speed, and the institution growth as well. So quite good benefits here, even for art that isn't really that good. Only one of them is rated good, so I can only imagine what like the masterpieces and things like that are really going to do for your realm. And then as I said earlier, prestige is coming back in EU5. And as Johan says here, this is a concept that is in many of their grand strategy games, and it pretty much is in all of them. In this game, its value will be between 0 and 100, and it will decay to 0 if nothing else increases it. The decay is bigger the higher your prestige is. Prestige in this game is heavily tied to the cultural part of the game, but it also has an impact on diplomacy and trade. So I don't think a crazy change from EU4, to be honest, but it looks like it is going to affect other things. So you can see here, prestige of England, it is currently 20.08, so not really that high. It's not up to 100 or anything. And this is affecting cultural influence, skill of new artists, monthly aggressive expansion, diplomatic reputation, market attraction, and great power score as well. And then this is changing by 0.03 due to all the modifiers you can see there. So it is affecting similar kind of areas as EU4, but some additional ways as well, because obviously you don't have works of art and things like that in that game. And with that, that is the end of the Dev Diary this week. Another slightly smaller one compared to last week's, but really showing like the next tier of content for the cultural side of the game. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, whether you like this or not. I quite like this system. I'm not sure about it affecting like warfare, as you do have the advances in the age tree, which I would have thought would make more sense for making you better at things as you kind of pick up new technologies. But anyway, let me know what you think. As I've already mentioned, next week is going to go into detail about the societal values, which will be great. As I've mentioned, these were mentioned quite a bit during all the Dev Diaries so far, so it'd be good to get some more information about these, and we'll find that out next week. But with that, we'll leave it there for today. Hit that like button if you've enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new here. I'm covering all the Dev Diaries up to official announcement, launch and beyond, and I cover Crusader Kings 3 in a similar way. But we'll leave it there for today, and I'll see you in the next one.